Welcome to 3D software. Please enjoy your stay. There's so many things to do, so please let's not delay. We've got limitless features, most good, some weird, and lots of little quirky bugs that we've engineered. Welcome to 3D software. Load up and take a chance. You can make some tracer porn or watch her do the Fortnite dance. Your topology's abysmal. It's not optimized. But throw it up on Twitter and we'll call it stylized. Welcome to 3D software. You'll never feel alone. Get that shit from Warhammer or make the units bold. Unity, Unreal. Which one do I choose? Just click on the tutorial that has numerous views. Welcome to 3D software. Make sure to save your file. Recreate your childhood bedroom, write some scripts that won't compile. We've got timelines and layers, UV test grids, none of all the features that you've all requested. Welcome to 3D software. We know that it's slow, but shut up and watch a 12-part series on making crypto. This is super boring, spin up to 1.5. Oh fuck, I missed a step, I gotta rewind. Make an indie game, a sim, sweater, or a frog. Make a short film starring Master Chief for photo, scan your top. My CS first multi deck, a 3D print, a small somewhere, a white shadow, or stiletto, smash my demo, student death up. Make a give the shader, here's a dragon mini costume. Can't take medieval weapons, recreating the pursuit. I know that it don't mean that you're just the worst. But before you do, download the substance update first. Could I interest you in rendering all of the time? A little bit of rendering all of the time. Subscriptions are a tragedy and piracy's a crime. Compiling and rendering all of the time. Could I interest you in rendering all of the time? A little bit of rendering all of the time. Subscriptions are a tragedy and piracy's a crime. Compiling and rendering all of the time.
Oh, indeed, everybody. Can we interest you in 3D software? Well, been stuck in it for 20 years, so guess we'll have to really, won't we? Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to this week's Metaworld News, or MBTV News, depending on what you want to call it. I haven't decided yet. I think of changing it every week. MBTV News one week, Metaworld News the next week. How does that sound? Guess
Sure.
what? I'll forget where I am though, won't I? So we'll just have to be both or this and the other for a while. Okay, my name is Mal Burns. Mal is the first word, Burns is the second word. But when you look me up on the interwebs, I'm frequently to be found squashed, particularly at Twitter. And Twitter is the one space that I rely on to post all my links of the week, which are very much the highlights of which I'm reading out to you and telling you about here today. These are my weekly highlights, of course, for the week ending, and I can't see the YouTube screen. What is the date?
Oh, it would be the good old 7th.
My prompt is not here. It's the 7th. Okay, I did fix it, but the YouTube screen is not showing for me at the moment because it's in behind the one I'm broadcasting. Never mind. Got another thing to get used to. Right. At least it will go easier. It'll be easier on my neck, not having to look behind me all the while. Right. Okay. So, as I said, I'm squashed on Twitter and various other places too. So, if you want to find my links, you've got to go to twitter.com/malburns, MALBURNS, all one word. And while you're there, you can check out twitter.com/metaworldnews. Again, two words as one. And yeah, well, you get the idea. And of course, you can subscribe to them. And if you're on Twitter anyway, you just follow me, and easy as that, really. Couldn't want for anything more, could you? Don't think you could anyway. Right, okay. So, having introduced myself and finally found out the date, we'll be looking at the news headlines for the week ending the 7th of August already. Indeed, it is already. I get very confused this week. I was looking at my diary, swearing I have something to do tomorrow, and it's actually the Monday after. So how? What's happening to the world? Even my brain's getting overheated. Right. Joining me here, as always, is none other than James Atlloud. Hello, James.
Hey Mal, how are you doing? I'm I'm
Yeah.
back here with my Ukraine shirt, and I see my lips aren't moving. So It looks like Firestorm is doing something fun. All right.
Right.
But yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, I can't tell myself. But
Yep.
anyway, yeah, it's always testing, it's trial and error out here in the open metaverse. It's
Yep.
the wild frontier. Who knows what's round the corner?
Yep.
There'll be red Indians firing arrows into me. There'll be funny Russians with these missile things pointed at me.
Hmm.
There'll
Hmm.
be all sorts of stuff going on in the wild frontier.
That's right.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we could all be behind a nice, pretty walled garden, somewhere like Second Life, for example, and consider that to be the end of the world, the end of the metaverse. Who cares what's outside the walls?
Hmm.
We're safe in here. It's our wonderful second. Whoops. Beep.
Beep.
I think the server's down at Second Life, mate. Where are the servers? Oh, he nuked them, did he? Oh, oh, they're coming back up. Oh, well, we'll have to switch to server somewhere else in the world that isn't being nuked yet. Oh, you mean Second Life hasn't got any other servers except where it's been nuked? Okay, right. Well, at least we can log into the open metaverse and just choose a location that's not been nuked yet. Maybe the moon. We've got a fiber optic link to the moon. Oh, we got an optical transmitter. Aren't I good when I start babbling? It could go on forever. Right.
Yes. A little drama.
A little drama indeed. Okay, I got to move to James, by the way, is fiddling with knobs all the while, which means that he's doing the audio and visual and switching the angles and my desktop and my avatar and everything like that, the audio visual whiz, so to speak, which allows me to focus on what I've got to say, if you're really interested, and more importantly, my desktop, because I can fiddle live in front of you. Yes, indeed I can. Right, okay, I'm just going to go to the news picks section here, and I think guess where there is. Right, okay.
Ah.
I believe James has a sound effect for this. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was disappointed that I bought the cat game, didn't I? It's not called Prey. That's a movie. I've forgotten what it is called.
Stray.
I played for it for a while. I got out of the intro sequence, and then in the next bit, and unfortunately, although it's wonderful to stroll around and be embodied in a lovely cat, like in the aforementioned Second Life. In fact, when I have a cat avatar, it's what I'd forgotten, and I shouldn't have forgotten because it is a game. Is that you have to solve puzzles. I don't know what they are or where they are, except in the first scene where they make it easy. Um, so I send me pussycat travelling, you know. Oh, dead end, can't do anything there. Comes back again, looks around, dead end, can't do anything there. I don't really want to go back to the first scene. So I'm still enjoying myself wandering around in the limited space I can get to at the moment, but I've yet to find a puzzle I can solve. Anyway, that's that. But it's a wonderful feeling. I've always enjoyed being in my cat avatar, and this is probably even better than the mesh avatar I have in Linden Land. Um, Sadly, it's not a multiplayer game in any way, so I could simply use my imagination to imagine that one of the other cats I was interacting with really was a cat. And this photo is taken by somebody whose real life pussycat is absorbed in playing the game as well.
Hmm.
And apparently, this cat is not unique. One of the major things about this game is that gamers with cats have been getting some real world company that they don't normally get whilst playing the game. And well, I've got to admit, it's pretty authentic. And if you press the Alt key at any point in time, you can meow, but each time you press it, it's a different meow. So I can just imagine what the real world feline would make of me doing that.
Hmm.
Anyway, there he is. And I'm moving along. Um, we can have a sound effect again because yes, another.
Oh.
Oh, oh. Yeah, now I've got the article that goes with this later, and I've actually forgotten who it is. I think it's Epic Games. They've open sourced their ray tracing engine, and everybody's getting very excited about this because it's a 3D ray tracing engine that is used in big cinema movies. But they've open sourced it, and people are very happy about this. They just want to promote people doing stuff and using it or something. It's a bit surprising. It seems to be very advanced. I'm not sure everybody could just use it, without practice. But I remember when ray tracing took about, just to do a psychedelic scene and ray trace it, took about 3 months. You know? I mean, people used to think Photoshop took a long time to draw the screen for an edit, back in the early days. But ray tracing, that just went on behind the scenes. You couldn't see it doing it. You just had to wait till it had been done and then hope that you had a monitor that was capable of displaying it. Anyway, ray tracing is going open source, but we will get back to that a bit later. Okay, while I'm on the pictures here, this is August the 10th, with 7th, 8th, so 8, 9, 10. Yeah, this will be Wednesday. Why do I think it's Thursday? Um, I went along to Trend Micro and bought myself a place on this. Although since then I was going through my YouTube feeds and I realised it's posted there. It's not live yet, but some people have this habit of posting their videos that they're not live. It's sort of a way of telling people it's coming up, but unfortunately, it means you don't get a reminder when it does come up. You only get one reminder, and that's when they post it. So basically, I gather that rather than register or anything else, if you watch Trend Micro's channel on YouTube at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is like 7 p.m. UK, 8 p.m. Europe, you can watch it on YouTube, which may be the easiest things to do. I mean, it's sort of going in world just to watch a panel discussion. It depends whether there's public talking Q&A or anything like that. Okay, so that's one thing happening. Also, SIGGRAPH is on up in Montreal, I think it is, in Canada. They've got this session building the open metaverse, so they've got several things going on there actually. Yeah, some of the major participants here. You've got Neil Trevor from Kronos, of course. You've got Neil Stevenson from Laminal, and I was actually at a talk with ugh, uh, neither one of them. Neil Stevenson and Neil Trevor did actually do a thing that is recorded that I've posted. We'll actually get to it later, in fact. But I was at one of the Laminal things during the week. It's very interesting. Okay, there's my pussycats again. Bit of wisdom, I suppose. Don't really know what that is doing here. It's just a screenshot. I just remember shooting it out. So if I ever need a quick resource, then that is a fairly good summary. How the metaverse will function, innovating VR. AR technologies will undoubtedly play an essential role in the metaverse formation, development, and active marketing. Because the metaverse is a combination of virtual worlds, VR and AR, the ways we can get to the heights of achievements. Yeah, actually, it's not such a profound statement, really, is it? Okay, The Economist, a high-flying magazine here, of course. It's a great read, The Economist, and some people think they're right-wing, but then they're not really. They're just economy focused, if you see what I mean. They can actually get quite left-wing at times. Anyway, they've decided they need to have a summit about this thing called the Metaverse. So they're going to have what? Guess what it's called? Metaverse Summit. M-word Summit, yes. Shared virtual experience to real value. And it's happening October 26th to 27th. And there'll be a virtual location and a real world location in San Jose. So more about that as it happens. I'm sure I'll have a full blog post on that at some point in time. So that's up in October. God, the year is going quickly, isn't it? Right. Oh, no, a nice sort of frame there for a talk or something. Technology will never replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers is transformational. Yeah. Good stuff. I think a teacher wrote that, you know. Right. And oh, newspapers, really. Meta breaking news. It's stagflation. There's a mad rush to Best Buy. Crowds form a line to grab a Quest before Quest session skyrockets. Silver lining. Now Quest only costs Meta negative $500 to make. And oh, the banner at the top says maximum oof achieved. What does that mean? Anyway, I have to keep an eye on that magazine. It seems to be at least on the ball, doesn't it? Meta News Weekly News. Interesting. Never heard of them before, but there you go. Right, okay. So, moving back to a clear screen, let me see what we've got here. Oh, yeah, we'll go for this one quickly. Yeah, I don't really remember, but we even have a sound effect for this because once upon a time this was a website and it gave us some regular news and we said we had a sound effect.
Oh my. You're going to
Yeah,
challenge
remember
your
that?
technician, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God, he found it. I didn't actually. Wasn't expecting that. Well done, James. On the
Oh, thank
ball.
you. Sometimes I'm lucky.
Anyway, the website is no longer, but it is. It's now an entertainment metaverse that is going to be launched, and early access will be in January 2023 next year. But yeah, it's a little trailer they put out for a minute, we'll say.
Mal, I don't know if there's audio, but it might be below the microphone threshold.
Oh, really? You can't hear the audio.
Nope. No, sir.
Oh, but you heard the audio earlier, didn't you, with
I
the first
did.
clip?
Yeah.
Oh, very strange. This, oddly enough, is the clip is actually Jean-Michel Jarre, which we are very familiar with from the old room, and Scar Ghost involved with this too. Exactly why you're not hearing anything.
I see a
He
little
sent you a,
volume control on the play bar, right to the
uh,
right of the mouse there.
oh, yeah, that was going to make it blast, no doubt, but we'll have a go. Any better?
Not much, nope.
No, I think we're back to the old Discord thing. Anyway, I'll keep flipping this to another minute or so, so we can look at it. Um, yeah, I don't understand why that would be. I can't. It's no use upping the volume. Oh, okay. Well, I have no idea what that is. We had this problem a couple of weeks ago, and we figured it out with something to do with Discord. Uh, and well, it's probably going to make us look a bit weird very quickly. We'll just check our video and audio settings here. Voice activity automatically determined is off. And yeah, that should be fine. And yeah, I think that's all we needed. Output is that. And the input is that. Yeah, absolutely nothing whatsoever wrong with all that I can see. So sorry to do that live on air. The fact that I can is just irresistible, isn't it? Okay, well, we will see. Just checking if I got something very short here, but we can just run very quickly to. Okay, this is an open source virtual world and social VR. This is up this month. The company are called Uvert, but nothing to do with the Uvert Foundation that used to be involved with OpenSim, but unless somebody didn't tell me something. So let's just see if we can get any sound on this before I give up completely.
Oh, I'm not hearing sound for that either. It is pretty though.
Well, my progress bar showing how far the video is getting is also malfunctioning there. So I don't. Was there any on video there?
Nope.
No, okay. Well, yeah, this is obviously an ad for Uvet, Virtual World, Social VR, etc., completely open source. So you can go to uvet.org to find out more about that. And I think I will have more news on that shortly because I know some people I've been in touch with have been mentioning putting their places there. I have to admit, actually, it did remind me a little bit of the one avatar that showed up there. It did remind me a little bit of like OpenSim or something. So um, maybe they are connected with OpenSim or using the backbone system. I don't know. Anyway, that is that. So yeah. Sorry, all this is throwing me, and it's not just the heat. We did all those, didn't we? Right, so
Mhm. Mhm.
I can put them away now. I'll keep the news clips there in case something remarkable happens later. Oh, now let's move to some of our web links, and actually, headlining, of course, is as usual. Basically, it's the Skull Ghost. Oh, cue the music, of course. We can do that. I wonder if Tony ever watches this or gets a kick out of the sound effects. I don't know.
Mhm.
Tony Patillo, anyway. The XR Wheat Peak, this came out on Monday, of course, as it does every Monday, and it's his roundup of the week before, so it's not the week just gone by for us, it's the week before that. But it's always a good roundup. He writes well, he does really long writing pieces and stuff like that. So it's always a good way to start the week. And you'll find it at scarredghost.com. That's SKARREDGHOST.com. And naturally, if you go there tomorrow or the day after, which is, of course, the beginning of a new week in real time, you will find one dated August the 8th, which will be probably even more up to date than this show is. So, swings and roundabouts, really. There you go. Scarghost.com is what you want for that. So we always, it's also a good bookmark to start on because it means I know where I am all the while. Until I actually post things in the wrong order, which happened with these latest two. Never mind. These are not the beginning of the week. These were today. Um, okay. Just before we came on air, I found this one, and I haven't even really scanned it as I normally would. It's a post saying why the lack of metaverse integration in today's VR ecosystem needs to be addressed. Well, I couldn't agree more. It's not that I immediately thought, right, I'm going to post that because, of course, it needs to be addressed. I would agree wholeheartedly. Seems to be a lot of financial sort of figures and stuff here, but the post itself is at venturebeat.com, VENTUREBEAT .com. We have quite a few links to them. They're they're a good site. I mean, they probably have on, but they've got a lot of VR metaverse, if that's the right word, type stuff these days. But they used to have games, but they move into other aspects of culture too. So it's just a nice site to go to. So venturebeat.com for that one. And moving on here, we have Engadget, which is part of the Yahoo family of brands. Well, okay, the headline in my list says Engadget is part of the Yahoo family of brands, consentyahoo.com. But as you can see, the actual post itself, consent, okay, well, it's obviously masking the actual link, and you have to click a box to consent. Okay, so if you follow this via my Twitter feed, which of course you can, you'll certainly get to the right page. It doesn't look like, are very interested in telling me where this page is. They want me to consent to use them first, so who knows? But this is actually the same cat we saw in one of the intro pictures, and it's DreamWorks basically animation. Oh, sorry, now what made me think this had. Okay, I don't know what made me think this had to do with the games people. Anyway, DreamWorks Animation will open source its Moonray renderer later this year, and this is basically ray tracing. They've been open sourcing a lot of technology in recent years, and now its animation division is preparing to make more tools freely available. It will release Moonray ray tracing renderer as open source software, and Hollywood Reporter notes that it will offer up its Aris cloud rendering framework in the codebase too. They're thrilled to share with the industry over 10 years of innovation and development on Moonray's vectorized, threaded, parallel, and distributed codebase, says Andrew Pierce, Vice President of Global Technology. The appetite for rendering at scale grows each year, and Moonray is set to meet that need. And we expect it to grow stronger, the code base that is, with community involvement. And DreamWorks has used Moonray in various movies, big screen Hollywood movies. This is How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Croods, A New Age, The Bad Case, Up and Coming, Puss in Boots. Puss in Boots. Wonder where the picture came from. There you go. And yeah, The Last Wish. More about there. You'll find that. Well, as I say, all I can see is a consent.yahoo.com, but you'll find it on my feed, and I'm sure you can find out more about it. It's quite hot news, and the developers feel so plenty of posts about that around actually. Okay, and another one that came in late here, just before I got everything sorted, was dated July 29th. Oh no, maybe the Engadget was the only late arrival. Okay, this one you'll find at organics.org, auganix.org. And X-Ray Glass partners with Nreal to announce AR smart glasses that provide real-time closed captioning of speech. I wonder if we included this or a video on this maybe last week. I think this is great news because it's basically for deaf people, hard of hearing, I should probably say. They basically get the closed captioning that they would on videos in their glasses. And of course, this doesn't mean the closed caption is just videos. It could be a phone call where they can't hear the person talking to them, so what the person's saying comes up in their glasses and converted to text that they can read. I can't think of any, for something people hearing impaired, I can't think of any more perfect solution, to be honest. Just showing that, there's almost unrealized examples of how these smart glasses can be used that you don't think of immediately. When we think of them, I can now have my television set stuck on my nose, or we think of those things. We don't always think of wonderful things like this. Anyway, as I say, this post is at auganix.org, auganix.org, and let's put that one away. Shorten the list a bit. Okay, the M word, of course. This is another post at VentureBeat, and as they say, a safe place for all, question marks. They've got this event coming up at VentureBeat that is called Transform 2022. So a lot of these posts are popping up at the moment. Great posts in their own right, but they're obviously a sort of prelude to stuff, and also video playback from their library. But they're looking at censorship in the centralized web and all that kind of stuff, and whether it's going to be good or bad or ugly, or all three in some ways. Is it going to be a safe place for all? Most people, well, all of us optimists would like to think so, but I think actually at the end of the day, most of us are actually far more pessimistic when we see what's been done to the web. Then I'd like to go back in time, this is something else I haven't mentioned yet. But I missed a picture, didn't I? Oh, I think I've got a webpage for it. Today is the 31st. It was 1991 that the first website was put online by Sir Tim Berners-Lee. So it's not the birth of the web per se, but the first actual website. And it just said what the web was, and it had a few links that you obviously, like links still are. You can click on them and they took you to another page. I don't think there was another site that they could take you to at that exact point in time. Oh, we know what happened there. And I mean, a lot of us were very optimistic about communications. You know, the world is going to be all connected, information is going to be shared, knowledge will be free and extensive and, you know, more available than ever. But look what's happened. It's been corrupted into God knows what, really. And it's taken 30 years for that to happen because, you know, the powers that be have had to learn how to use the network infrastructures and build stuff that will spy on you and then get it spying on you. And then the corporations have come along and done a better job than the government. So they've now got more information power than governments, etc., 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 says the rabbit hole man. However, there's no reason to suspect that in another 20 years, the metaverse, however it becomes, could well not be a safe space for anybody at all, especially, one hopes not, but especially if the Emperor Zuckerberg has anything to do with it. Hardly, you know, a freedom of information and democracy spokesman, for want of a better word. Anyway, so read this Adventure Beat. It gives you an idea of, you know, various things. Now it looks at China and all the rest. Quite a bit of news in this week. I've got no particular things, but worries about China too, because they've been very active in developing metaverse, and a lot of the companies that we know that we think are active in the field are more and more are ending up to proving to be Chinese companies or subsidiaries of Chinese companies and stuff like that. And that is kind of state non grata at the moment, I think. Although Nancy Pelosi had decided it was safe enough, didn't she? I wonder if she's changed her mind now. Anyway, the international side of the metaverse is really a bit like looking at the international side of the web now. You know, whole countries can have the web brought down at the moment's notice. And some countries like Russia and China actually effectively have internets all of their own, which are very selective about what they're listening from outside and are really basically propaganda machines internally. But even in so-called democratic countries like the UK here, you know, it's so much is still now being governed by the states. So Russia, China, and the USA are terrible for controlling populations now with the web, let alone the metaverse. So moving on from that you'll find at venturebeat.com, venturebeat.com. And I'm moving on here to XR Today. This is another roundup site, xrtoday.com. And this again was at the beginning of the week, rather like Weekend in XR. Big news from Xiaomi, whatever, China, of course, again, I believe. NVIDIA, Epic Games, XR8 Glass, and the WEF. The WEF? What's a WEF when you're at home? We'll find out about that in a minute. Right. Again, this is another roundup, but just a good place to go to look at stuff. WEF, of course, is the World Economic Forum. Now, they've actually had a lot of stuff to do with it. They had a sort of season of metaverse stuff recently. I think that's sort of over, but it's where, you know, metaverse type things, if that's the word. You notice I'm using the word just to make life easier for myself. I think have been on their agenda, and I think will continue to be so. So they are looking ahead at things like that on a global scale. Right, put that one away. Moving down, Xiaomi, if that's their name again. Rotor VR, a site we know well. ROADTOVR.com. Exact link, of course, in my Twitter feed at twitter.com/Mal Burns. They've unveiled consumer smart glasses with a 50 megapixel camera and a micro OLED display. Um, these, by my criteria at least, are eminently wearable. They're quite light, apparently. Um, but there's something about them that makes me think, you know, I'm I'm going to stand out and draw attention to people when I'm wearing these ones, mostly because of the little gadgets at the side. And the other thing, which actually surprisingly has never really been a problem with helmets, um, is if, like the original Google Glass, you've got like a camera on one side and whatever, you find, although they stage it very well for photographs, the additional weight on one side of the glasses means they're always going to be a bit lopsided on you. And, you know, and in the fashion pics they don't show that, but of course you're going to be always pushing the bit that's hanging down a bit up a bit to align it. But it certainly comes with all the sort of specs here, and they've got a little video here. Now, of course, I don't know whether this is going to be heard.
正上头的相机你见过吗？点一下。Yep, I can hear that one. 音乐大点声，去玩，去了。双手边拍边拍，现在做饭边拍，不妨是啊，边拍能边拍。如果被这个比较，可以让你看那么远。
Oh God, the poor dog. Right. Well, the Chinese don't care anyway. Yeah, that wasn't Chinese, as if you didn't know. It's targeted at consumers in China. They get discounted pre-orders, and it's currently selling at about the equivalent of $370. Although after, oh, hang on, pre-order period August the 3rd. Oh, it will actually be $400 approximately. So it's just the pre-orders that are $30 less. Anyway, kind of be interesting. And yeah, another quick video on the smart glasses here.
Someday in the future, smartphones may become a thing of the past. Imagine every smartphone function integrated into what you wear. Today, we're introducing Xiaomi's first pair of smart eyewear. Calling, viewing, navigating, camera, all integrated in a pair of glasses. Xiaomi smart glasses use optical waveguide technology for lens display capabilities. At its core is a 0.13-inch micro-LED display, smaller than a grain of rice. Light output is as high as 2 million nits. Through reflection and diffusion of the optical waveguide lens, a much larger display is offered to the eye. View notification, phone calls, HUD navigation.
Shall I translate the menu?
Okay, translating the menu.
And take photos. It was said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Xiaomi smart glasses uses an engineering mindset to create a future viewpoint.
Well, needless to say that, of course, there's no Chinese one, completely different source. Exomi. From what I could hear from the voice there, they were pronouncing Exomi as show me. So maybe you meant to pronounce it show me or something. But yeah, anyway, so now those glasses were much more palatable because they had a uniformity about them. So aesthetically, I like things to be symmetrical. I don't want to sing out one side and not the other kind of thing. So they just actually look like a pair of glasses, but actually do the trick, the basic trick of smart glasses and stuff. So that one definitely looks to be not so bad, really. So you'll find this whole post at roadtovr.com, roadtovr.com, and as with all these things, find the direct links on my Twitter feed at twitter.com/Mal Burns. Moving on to XR Today. Again, in fact, we've been there before today, xrtoday.com. And the question, what are the 7 layers of the metaverse? Dear me, as every expert around seems to have an idea about this sort of stuff. There's Matthew Balls and Tony Parisi. It was Tony Parisi who was at this thing a couple of days ago. Great talker. Right. Understanding the several layers is an excellent way to try and fathom its massive potential. And obviously it starts with blah blahs. And then it goes on about research from Emerging Research last year. They reckon the value of whatever the fuck the metaverse is going to be will be 47.69 billion in 2020. Now that is an odd date because it's 2 years ago. I think somebody hasn't been paying attention to what they're writing here. I reckon it will be at 829 billion by 2028. And of course, social media giant Facebook is transforming itself, or should we say trying to transform itself, not altogether successfully, really. Anyway, it looks at the layers. The experience layer is the UI, really, basically. A discovery layer, what you do. Creative economy, how people build and make stuff for it. Decentralization, economic idea where central ownership no longer exists, so it's all decentralized. Human interface layer, that's actually a bit like the first one, interfacing, but infrastructure layer, how it all works together, and closing thoughts, that's by the bloke who wrote the thing. Yeah, useful little guide there, but nothing absolutely profound. I'm just trying to he didn't actually write this article, but there's a guy, he's on Twitter and all over the place, called John Radoff. Where are we? That's his name there. And they seem to be quoting him a lot on his definition there. But somebody else who's remained anonymous is actually the person who wrote the article. So that's at xrtoday.com. Let's start removing some of the things we don't want. Okay, Congress boots the metaverse. Kind of. This is a site called Politico.com. It's a political site, really. Well, I gotta give it a name. Politico.com. And this is quite a nice one. It's Biden is listening there and somebody else is listening there, and we got 2 people elsewhere in the White House here or something. Well, of course, it's politics, isn't it? You got to show off your big men. This was he was listening to communications workers of America speaking during a virtual meeting on something called the CHIPS bill. Now, I'm not in America, and but I do know that this CHIPS bill and the Science Act has been grilling scientists and what they call wonks in cutting-edge areas like quantum computing, AI, robotics, which could see billions of dollars of new research funding. It's basically a rubber stamp from the Biden administration, on a lot of progressive technology and stuff. And this is actually so there was something else that went through in the Congress or somewhere in the week, which Jon Stewart had been campaigning about that, but that was actually more to do with compensate a particular bill that would allow compensation for vets who had been in what they call fire pits in, I think it was in Iraq, not Afghanistan, but so busy busy week up in Washington by the look of it. Anyway, yeah, so this is, I just love that title as a Congress boosts the metaverse. What's the metaverse again? And then it says kind of. So indirectly, I suppose that bill will actually cover an awful lot of science and technology, really. So good news for the scientists, they say. All right, moving on to. Ooh, go away. Right, okay, moving on. This is a site called. There's probably another pop-up trying to get to me that didn't get through. Right, insidehighered.com. So that's INSIDEHIGHERED.com. So higher education, basically. Inside Higher Ed, all squashed together, just like I am on Twitter. So Professor reaches into the chest cavity of a cadaver in the Fisk University cadaver lab and pulls out a human heart and hands it to a student. Student feels the weight of it in their hands and turns it over for examination. But blah, blah, blah. The lab, of course, is in virtual reality. And so the student actually, she can't see this human heart very well. So she blows it up until it's 10 foot tall and goes and examines it in greater detail. You get the idea. Virtual reality is extensively used in education now. It's still not appropriate for everything, but it's, given that education is about receiving and learning information, but also experimenting and understanding the things you're being told. Sometimes VR is the only way you can create the understanding, just like schools teach biology, but then they have field trips out to the countryside where the teacher actually shows them the real things, the vegetation and stuff. Is that biology? I don't know. And you go out in the real world on a school trip, don't you? And you see you see life for real, and you get down in the dirt and you look at microorganisms and you chop up worms and find that they divide into two, and you don't get that. You could get that in virtual reality, but if a teacher tells you that in class, you say, "What?" Go say for real, and you understand, right? Sorry, I'm blabbering a lot here, aren't I? The birth of metaversities. That's well, somebody had to come up with that name, didn't they? What we're gonna do when the metaverse is finally put to rest is nobody can understand what it fully is, let alone Zuckerberg. All these people are going to have to come up with new definitions of their own, aren't they? I don't know. The word will probably stay, but get slightly more civilized as time goes by. Okay, moving on to that's insidehighered.com. Moving on to the Daily Mail Co. UK. What a big most what's happening there? Right, okay. Oh God. Pop-ups on new machines that don't want to be hidden anymore. Right. Meet a digital pop star with millions of teen followers on the African Life metaverse. Now, with the Robloxes and Minecrafts and blah blahs and ooplas and wobbity blobbities and let alone Meta, I've kind of forgotten about African Life. They've been around quite a long while, and it is actually a teen virtual world. And of course, they would be one of those worlds that would probably have used the expression metaverse to describe themselves as being part of something. Metaverse is a virtual world focused on social connection, where people can explore via digital avatars. Well, that's just saying social connection, and there's something like that puts a few people out of the running anyway. Anyway, there is this place called African Life Metaverse, and this is really a mainstream story. The Mail, the Daily Mail newspaper, is a fairly low intellectual British paper, but it's not the worst, they're dealing with two things here. Basically, parents expressing concern about safety of children in the metaverse, but then we've got Polar. She is actually, just give her any other name, it just says she's a virtual pop star with 2 million followers. and she regularly performs to crowds in the African Life metaverse, where she sees it as an opportunity to meet her fans on the same side of the screen, she puts it. And this has a very Second Life feel to it, you know. Yeah, they got avatars dancing and performing on the stage, and they got a few people dancing in front of the stage, and a few people sat there looking at it. But if she's actually got millions of people following her in there, where are they? You know, are there actually like, you know, 10,000 shards, which counts as 2 million people in the end, or what? Or maybe they just videoed it out or something. They're not very clear here. But it came as a bit of a shock to me because I've forgotten all about African Life. And the other thing about African Life is you can download it onto your iPhone and your iPad from the iOS store. And basically, it's listed as being suitable for ages 12 and above. It describes itself as life but better. 6 people playing every month, and Avakin is the name of your what they call avatars in there. Styling in fashionable outfits, buy and decorate properties, interact, etc., etc., etc. And unfortunately, they've also got 1.6 million followers on TikTok, which I suppose is a fashionable place to be, but it's really sick, that platform. Makes Facebook like, well, of course, Facebook are now trying to copy TikTok, aren't they? So never one to turn down a good bit of theft. Messes at it too. Anyway, interesting. Dailymail.co.uk. So DAILYMAIL.co.uk. The link on my feed, the direct link that is on my feed, of course. Right. Where are we? Okay. CNET.com. Quite a big site, this. Easy to remember too. CNET.com. And they've got an article about virtual exams and the future of eye care. This means eye exams. Oh, you could argue that you'll pass an exam better if you've got good eye care, eyewear on, but no, it's the other way. Could have come up with a better title, actually, but never mind. Getting an eye exam can sometimes be an uncomfortable experience. Doctor shines bright lights in your corneas, puffs air into your eyes, and blah, blah, blah. You move from machine to machine, putting your chin in a strap where hundreds of chins have been before. Getting your eyes dilated is never pleasant either. Hiruru is trying to change that. You will be using the Magic Leap headset, and you'll be using virtual reality and augmented reality eye exams. And they've been specially developed by eye doctors in Miami, blah, 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 blah. Not a great deal about it there. And there is a link there to a YouTube video, but it's not going to work in my viewer here at the moment. So you can find out about that checking out the article at cnet.com. Another UK site here, Verdict Co UK. This verdict.co.uk. And just a rather fanciful little article to read to remind yourself where things have been and come. This is actually looking at a recent history of the M word, or metaverse as it's called now, in popular literature. Well, holograms replace avatars, etc., etc. It's not exhaustive, but it's nice to have this. Obviously, Neil Stevenson's Snow Crash is there. I'm not familiar with so much with this one. Author called Tad Williams has a series of novels called Other Land. Have you heard of this, James, perchance? There might be a author.
No, I haven't. No.
Anyway, full immersion virtuality has been. It's a tetralogy, whatever that means. It's all referred to as the net. Where they got that name from? It can be accessed in a variety of 96. Remember, this is pretty. The web's pretty new. It can be accessed in a variety of ways, including through flat screen TV, VR goggles, full body immersion in a pressure sensitive gel, and an expensive direct neural implant called neurocannula. Can I have a neurocannula, please? I don't know. I want one though. shopkeeper here. It's not very helpful, you know. Right. Maybe I should ask. No, I better not ask Madam A. Be here all night. Right. Actually, no, I think that's a fictional name. I think it belongs in the fiction. I'm really tempted to ask the talking machine for a definition, but she probably won't know either. Right. Okay. So yeah, this is the whole series, and machine brain interface and stuff. They're citing the Elon Musk company Neuralink as possibly having been inspired by some of the stuff in that lots of novels. Ready Player One, that's the client's thing, again, is part of the course these days, at least, thanks to the Spielberg movie. And another one I had not come across, Jennifer Haley's a novel called The Nether. That's more recent, 2013. Well, it's still 9 years old. It's a place set in the near future when the internet has evolved into Nether, a vast network of virtual reality realms. Users may log in, choose an identity, and indulge their any desire. More and more people are choosing to become shades who will go on life support and stay logged in forever. Now, sadly, well, you know, it's probably a good read, but I was reading today that somebody posted an article saying that, you know, it's the singularity or whatever, where the people call it, you know, where we merge with machines and upload our memories and stuff like that. It's never going to happen. It's until we've got hundreds of years of quantum computing behind us, because of the actual necessary, you know, computing power to actually replicate things on a microatomic level, to actually create yourself and then inhabit it with all the bits of yourself. You might be able to transfer data into that sort of clone of yourself, which is like an electronic clone, but it won't happen in our great grandchildren's lifetime, because of the you know, we have to see what quantum computing power does, but even that can't move it that fast. But the problem comes down to, where do you store all this data? It's got to be on servers somewhere. And for all these people who think, oh, I'm going to write in my will and I'm going to get myself, you know, I'm going to get my body frozen and I'm going to have my memories and myself uploaded into, you know, this virtual world I like the look of. Right. And then you die. Right. Except you not quite died. You're put in a chamber and you're, what's the name? So frozen. Whatever. And you know, a month later, you know, your frozen body's in this sort of cryonic chamber. That's the word I wanted. And your memories are in a sort of double self in a highly realistic virtual world where you don't actually realize you've died. You're just the things that make up your mind and memory are just continuing as normal, but in a virtual mirror world. But back in the real world, somebody pulls the plug on all the servers and all the electricity. Somebody nukes the planet. You're still gone. The machine that's keeping your real world body alive has had it. And there'll be no, however sophisticated the data in that virtual world is, it's gone too. Because I can't even imagine the kind of server it would take to handle that. But unless they keep the servers off planets a few solar systems away, I don't know. It's, you know, often we just don't think of the obvious. You know, people are fantasizing about, oh, I'm loading myself and doing this, that, and the other. And sorry, pull the plug. It's like, why doesn't your computer work? If you plug it in? Oh. But of course, if there's no electricity, the iPad works for a little while till its battery runs out, but eventually all these things are just we're totally dependent on that. So if we have cyber attacks and our networks are taken down, we'll be back to, we won't even be back to 50 years ago. We'll be back to the bloody Stone Age because we've forgotten how to use all the stuff that went before. Anyway, no more rabbit holes for me today, I hope. Anyway, I'm going to have to look up the Nether and also the other Land series. I'm quite curious about them. There's Charles Stross's novels. There's quite a few others that I'm really surprised I included there. You know, they've really just chosen for two well-known ones and two lesser-known ones and called it a day. Whereas there's actually a lot more material out there. And I looked at this and I thought that was Frank Zappa. But I think it is. I don't quite know how. Maybe it's something about, do you want to phone up a hologram? I don't know. That's definitely something. I'm sure of it from a photo. Anyway, moving on. I'm getting way off track here. Moving on to Forbes, of course. This week in XR, it's Charlie Fink's roundup, of course. FORBES.com. And Charlie's looking at medical miracles with VR and quite a few other things. Now, this is interesting. This was something that it's been covered once at the beginning of the week, and it's been all over the place since. And at no point did I actually really consider it worthy of. It was very worthy news because what they did, right, is they took conjoined twins, which were joined together by their heads. By the way, it wasn't just arms or something negligible. The neurosurgeons actually literally had to, separate them, which basically meant taking the two heads that were in one skull and splitting the skull so that the heads are separate. A fascinating thing to have actually done. And of course, a lot of the plug here has been getting over, mentioning how they use VR and holograms to do it, mostly because there was a team I think it was in Britain here, and a team in America who were actually working together on it. So they were obviously using advanced communications. So quite a revelation. But to me, the main news here was the fascinating way they were actually able to take conjoined heads apart. As opposed to, one's joined at the waist or at the arse or at the back or the arms or stuff, that's been done before. But to actually take, there's a photo somewhere, I don't think it's in this blog. No, they're going on to more things. But there's actually a photo somewhere of what the conjoined twins look like. It's not a particularly pleasant photo, I might add, before the operation. And you just look at that and you think, God, they managed to do that. So the important news there was the medical advance, not the fact that they just used, VR and holograms for communication. They presumably used robotics for, and the surgeons would have operated the robotics and sometimes maybe jointly through VR at two different locations. But to me, it was the operation itself rather than using VR that was just amazing. When I thought of it. Anyway, Charlie Fink's got a roundup of that, and he's got some links. He's got there's a link there, in fact. No, that's the after. Oh, there, right, here we are. This is how they look like before. It looks like they'd already been getting busy in stitches. Can you see what's happening there? That's one head.
We see it's not quite in the center. It's
yeah.
You want to raise it up a little bit. There you go. There it is.
Yeah, you don't really get all of it, but they had to basically cut the skull apart there and make sure they didn't damage the brain in either part, and how they put it back together. Oh, there's another one that really shows you what they looked like before. It's just, I can't imagine doing that operation. It's just, I can see why it would be deemed necessary, because I don't know how their kids would live otherwise. But anyway, yeah. So something else there entirely. Right. Okay, so yeah, Forbes.com, FORBES.com for Charlie Fink's roundup there. And now I've got another one. It's not Yahoo, but it's you're being redirected. Oh, well, okay. This is a site called Analytics Insight. And actually, it's I wonder if this is. I went to another site relating to this, and there was a pop-up blog saying you're not meant to be in this site unless you're a professional in something, or a political professional or something. Anyway, let me in now. So this might be a similar thing as doing analytics insight.net. Meta, formerly, of course, it's now known as Meta Platforms, isn't it? I think, but they used to be Facebook, and they still own the Facebook, if you see what I mean. They've suffered a $2 billion loss, and lessons to be learned from the metaverse fail. But they do seem to be in trouble, and the only thing that every day Suki pops up again with something new. And some of the analysts are saying that he's gambling everything now, except for the metaverse gambling. He's banking everything on launching a version of WhatsApp for business, for the commerce. In other words, getting enterprise users all over the world to use WhatsApp instead of their normal phones, just as consumers do that already. But it's a bit like Skype, to be honest. They may have been designed as consumer items, but there's never been anything to stop the enterprise using them if they wanted to. All it means is you add a few tools to make them more attractive to the enterprise. But if the enterprise all it wants to do is ring up a colleague somewhere and talk, or several colleagues and have a discussion, they've always been able to do that. WhatsApp can do that for them. They don't need a special version just for them. So exactly where Zuckerberg thinks he's going to make a lot of money out of that one, I don't know. But I may be wrong. I'm not a businessman. Far from it, in fact. So, oh, sorry. I need that cold coffee if I can find it. analyticsInsIGHT.net for that one. And yeah, let's just see if we've got some of our sound back here. We'll have a good. This is I thought this was a parody actually when I saw it, but I think it's actually for real. It's a 30-second. I think it may be a real ad for a company called Morgan and Morgan. For the people gone. When I first saw it, I thought it's a piss take of, well, of what it probably is. Hopefully, you're going to get some sound. We will see.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. As millions flock to the metaverse, many are experiencing unnecessary pain and suffering, terrible car crashes, frightening trip and falls, and on-the-job injuries. Our army of over 800 attorneys and 4,000 support staff have recovered billions for clients just like you. Injured? Just dial pound long. That's all. Morgan & Morgan, America, and now the universe's largest injury law firm. I'm John Morgan.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Did you hear that?
I did.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, as
That's
you can
very
see,
funny, right?
it seems funny because there's a blocky and awful, and you think, what is a law firm doing this thing in advertising like that for? But I think they've got a very weird idea what the metaverse is. But they don't mention Metaverse One. It's just like I mean, if I saw that on British TV, I mean, I would not believe it at all. But I've got a feeling that in America,
no, I think it's a good parody.
Okay, so I'm right. Okay, so that was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, reality channels. This is the this is a bit longer. I'm going to get some shorter ones out of the way first. Right. Okay. Inside the metaverse, are your kids safe in a virtual world? Ooh, that wasn't what I meant to do. Shit.
Oh, what? This is 12-year-old Jaden immersed in the metaverse. Right now, he's playing Gorilla Tag, a game he downloaded onto his Quest headset made by Meta.
There are 3 kids after me now.
As we watched him playing, we heard very young voices.
You want to say God number?
Jaden's mom, Adriana, doesn't let him use his microphone to talk to other players. Jaden hears a lot of offensive, sexually explicit, even racist language.
You heard the F word? Like one time or lots of times?
All the time. All the time.
We heard it in a game called Gun Raiders, not created by Meta, but available in the Quest headset. It's the content, but also the impact from immersion that has child advocates concerned.
The metaverse for kids. Millions of kids across the country and around the world are using these headsets. They could be exposed to all sorts of hateful content, violent content, sexual content, and you just see them with their glasses on. You have no idea what they're doing.
The company behind Gun Raiders told us, while not a typical player experience in Gun Raiders, we are aware that issues like this do happen in our game today. We are continually deploying new moderation features. The makers of Gorilla Tag did not respond to our request for comment.
Does it concern you, Tim?
In the beginning, it did. I can't necessarily eliminate him from playing these games. So I'd rather approach this issue through communication.
Meta told us in a statement, Quest devices are not intended for children under the age of 13, and our terms make this clear in the setup process. We also have parental controls for adults supervising teens over 13.
I'm here to talk to you about what the
Right, okay. Something went wrong with my player there. I wanted to give you a brief glance of scrolling through it, and suddenly all the controls went away. So we have to reload that again. We're having a fun time today, aren't we? Here's the reload. Oh, and of course it all needs to be reconfigured, doesn't it? Easy enough to do, I think. Just move the bits and pieces of the columns and get my proper menus back. Okay. All right. Okay. I've forgotten which one we're on now. Oh, okay. Okay, 35 seconds of Enter the Metaverse here. I think this is one we haven't used yet. Oh, Mona. The Monaverse. That was right. Okay. Yeah. Something new. It's a new metaverse called the Monaverse. Wouldn't you believe it? Actually, that one looks not too bad, all things considered. It looks better than Morgan and Morgan's advert, doesn't it? Anyway, yes. Okay, we looked a bit about kids being safe. Okay, this is actually a bit longer. This is about reality channels now. I think it's Neat is it? It's basically something to do with the people who did Pokemon, for one, who were trying to now build a worldwide kind of mirror reality or whatever, where they use the same kind of markers they use for Pokemon quests, but all over the world. I don't really, I can sort of understand what they're getting here, but it sounds like a very major thing. But I think this video maybe gives an idea a little bit more about what they're working on.
At Liquid City, we're trying to understand how technology could change our lives in the future. We want to know what people will use it for, how it's going to feel, and how it's going to fit into our lives and society. We started making films and exploring the possibilities of AR and VR more than 10 years ago. Now we have the tools to build it for real. We can actually step into this new reality and experience it together. The reality channel's prototype is a slice of the real world metaverse. It's a glimpse into a possible future where virtual content seamlessly meshes with the physical world. For the first prototype, for a conference, the Niantic Lightship Summit 2022.
To create a hyper-local experience that could only really exist in that specific location. We used our background in architecture to help us visualize this, so we drew plans to consider layout and sections, look at the spatial experience. And we also used collaborative design sessions in VR using tools like Clarity Sketches. This allowed us to fill a venue with useful and delightful virtual content that perfectly matched to that existing context. One of the biggest challenges was the fluidity of conference event setups. We had to work with the event team very closely to plan our virtual installation alongside their physical set.
We created 5 reality channels for this event.
The navigation channel shows what's coming up now and next in each room of the venue and has a large timetable over the balcony that shows you everything that's happening over the whole 2 days of the conference. You can look out over the terrace and see local landmarks and recommendations. If you look at these landmarks, you get a little bit more detail about what's in each of these locations. The search channel also shows you information about the food and drink inside the conference. The Stickerverse is a user-generated channel where you can place stickers of different shapes anywhere you like in the conference, and everyone else can see stickers you place, so you can kind of work together to make things, or maybe put things out to other visitors. The VBS channel is showing you what's happening in the scenes in this experience. So it's going to show you the mesh that you're currently localized against. It's going to show you other way spots in the venue that will help you navigate through, and it's also going to allow you to see how accurate everything is and get a sense of what's happening under the hood. The Summit channel is most importantly a spatial experience. It's a second building on top of the first, woven into the architecture of this conference venue, sometimes extending it, sometimes cutting through it. And dotted throughout this channel, we have a series of photo booths where you can take photos yourself or with friends, with some lovely curated backdrops, which you can then actually post inside the channel for other visitors to see. We really tried to make this space feel alive by filling it with creatures hiding in nooks and sitting on trees. Angel.
Okay, I'm moving forward a bit here because we don't want 5 minutes of the whole advert. It's here at the end. It's one of those sci-fi TV shows that has like sort of snaky things that fly around. I can't remember which one it is now.
Oh,
God, those
man.
science fiction ones.
Raised
they're
by
on another-
Wolves, are you thinking of?
That's it. Yes, of course. Yes. I mean, that's obviously an overlay, but even so, the idea of a snake in the air. God, I don't know. I think I prefer dragons. Right. We'll see. We will see. Right. Okay, we did room. Okay, quite a cover. Go on.
It's been 9 months since Facebook renamed itself as Meta, and since then, the whole economy has suffered quite a pullback. So, what does it mean for all the tech giants betting big on the metaverse? That's the question of the morning. For the next 2 weeks, NBC Universal News Group's going inside the metaverse today. Julia Borston joins us with more. Julia.
Well, Andrew, the recessionary pressures have made metaverse plans less of a near-term priority. The tech giants, Meta, Apple, Google, Microsoft, continue to make long-term investments in hardware and software to bring consumers and companies into immersive 3D worlds. Since Meta's name change, the company has readied a web version of its Horizon World and a high-end VR headset, the Quest Pro, to launch later this year. Plus, it opened a retail store. But Meta has suffered some setbacks, reportedly delaying the release of AR glasses beyond 2024, and the FTC is looking to block its acquisition of a VR startup. Plus, it's burning billions of dollars on its Reality Labs division each quarter. But it's not just Meta. In the next year, we expect a battle brewing to sell new hardware. In addition to Meta's coming Quest Pro, along with its core Quest 2 headset, Apple is expected to release its mixed reality product as soon as the spring. It's already reportedly working with content creators such as Jon Favreau for the new format. Plus, Google is working on its own AR headset, reportedly for 2024, along with a new version of Google Glass. And Microsoft is continuing to work to expand its enterprise-focused HoloLens AR headset to more healthcare companies, manufacturers, and the like. And it says it's working on a consumer version as well. Now, venture investors see a growing opportunity in the metaverse, pouring $1.9 billion into the space. That's just so far this year. That's more than the amount invested in all of last year. But one question we're watching more near term is how much a recession could dampen interest in some of these high-end consumer devices. Andrew?
Hey there. The other thing that I think everyone is trying to figure out is this a winner-take-all market, and how important is the hardware piece of it versus the software piece of it?
I think the perception right now is that it's not a winner-take-all market, especially if you look at the fact that there are these enterprise devices, and then there are going to be more high-end devices for people who are maybe more serious gamers, and then less expensive devices that maybe cost a couple $100 for people who are more casual users of this format. So I think.
Right. Quickly flicking through to see if there was much more at the end, but I don't think there was. You get the idea. It's quite good to see what essentially is pretty mainstream media now covering, you know, the field in general. CNBC, I don't know, James would know better than me. I mean, it's not a particularly financed focus channel, is it? It's a general kind of news, I think.
Yeah, I think so. See, I have to. Is it? I don't know what that collaboration is. I know MSNBC, but
Oh yeah,
CNBC.
it's the old. It certainly was NBC. I can tell from the logo, but I think
Yeah.
is it CBS or CNBC or no? I don't know. Anyway,
Yep.
It's interesting keeping an eye on some of these coming up. Anyway, now why did that happen like that? Same problem again.
We are back with more of our special series, Inside the Metaverse. And this morning, an aspect of the online world people have a lot of questions about, like we do. Why do you want to buy stuff that you can't hold or touch? Yeah. You're right.
Good question. Well, some very recognizable companies are investing very real money into this. Isn't it a glimpse into the future of shopping?
NBC senior consumer investigative correspondent Vicki Wynn is going to help us make sense of this. We don't get it, so help us.
We'll get it after.
Okay.
But you'll want to do it, I can't promise. Good morning. If you are still confused about the metaverse, you are certainly not alone. But a lot of major brand companies are betting big. They are already selling their wares in virtual worlds. So log on with me. I'm going to take you on a tour of the
Oops. Ah, something gone a bit odd there. Again. Right, okay. We'll leave that one, I think. For a while, I don't like things, having to cope with things live. Okay, back on, we're on analytics insight there. Basically, I was segueing to a couple of clips I had that were, dealing with the big companies like Meta and stuff like that. So remove that one. They've got a few more to go yet. Okay, this is a site called techexplore.com, techxplore.com, and this is interesting. I've been looking at one of my old passions I used to work with, God knows, 50 years ago or more, was comic books and stuff. And I keep noticing a lot of stuff, obviously like ordinary books, you can get them as digital editions now, or you can get the old paper editions and whatever. But this article I thought was from the University of Surrey here in the UK, in fact. I thought this was quite interesting because it's a different side of the way augmented reality could be the future of paper books. Now, I thought this simply means, you can buy a paper book and there'll be a marker in that brings you some extra information, a bit like if there's a marker on Stonehenge or something, your smartphone can show you a layer of information based on the AR marker. And this is actually a bit similar, but this is actually more of a retaliation against the ebook trend. In this, it will allow, whereas ebooks obviously can give you extra pages or little pop-ups, sort of with more information at a given point in the book. The printed books can't normally do that. So they're now looking at ways to put extra information into the printed book, right, using augmented reality. And it means that the idea is you'll be able to consume information on the printed paper and the screen, any screen, be it a smartphone or a computer screen, side by side. Basically, they're saying multiple electronic solutions currently exist, including e-readers and smart devices. There's yet no hybrid solution which is sustainable on a commercial scale. So I thought I had a video on this. I may have that somewhere separately. But I certainly love the idea of this. Basically, um, you probably can't see it that well, but in the picture here, it's showing you what you can imagine to be an ordinary paper book, you know. But down the side here, you've got what you would often see in, say, a web page online, where you've got different buttons that you can press to activate different things. And it actually reminds me most of I got a sort of I forget what it's called now, but it's a stylus. It's a pen with a camera in it, as well as a pen, and it communicates by Bluetooth with a smart app. And if you're making notes on a piece of ordinary paper, the camera records those notes and can send them to the app and then be transferred to your computer, whatever. So you can draw, or in fact, you can just write freehand and get it all converted so digitally as you need it. And the only hint that you're not working on an actual conventional notepad is there's two, tiny icons just in one of the top corners, which basically switches on various interfacing tools. So I don't know. This could be, there's still nothing like picking up a real book and reading it. But I also find that although I've got various, I've iPads and also drawing tablets, and stuff like that, there's still nothing nicer than having a blank sheet of paper and a pencil and just doing squiggly things for yourself. The tactile experience is just not the same on a drawing tablet. Even the expensive ones, which give you a feeling of movement and, slight texture, feel, and everything else, it doesn't quite. I think it's to do with the size. You're trying to map what you're doing on a tablet to something that's on the screen, and sometimes it's a big screen, sometimes it's a small screen, and it's a hard work experience compared to it's almost like we know how to use a pencil since we're born. Anyway, this is quite interesting. I'm not going to dwell on it, but TECHXPLORE.com, and it's University of Surrey here that have been working on this format. Right, AR Post. Oh God. Oh, I think I've just been up here too long. It wants me to. Right, big question. Question of the decade. What is a digital twin? We hear the answer to this all the while. It seems to be a big thing for the last few weeks. People just say, what is a digital twin? And some posts, as you can see, mimicking that is thing. They're basically defining digital twins as, it's not all embracing like VR or AR, but it has a lot to do with that. A digital twin could be a copy of you, a twin of you, digital. That could, forgetting the thing I mentioned earlier about uploading your memories and whatever, that digital twin could be a photorealistic avatar that is empowered to do a lot of things that you would do yourself, or maybe just operated by yourself. But a digital twin could also be a place. So it could be a city, a virtual city that is a digital twin of a real city. It would effectively, in virtual reality terms, that really would be a mirror world. But they also use the expression digital twin to describe that. And it can be anything. It could be animals, it could be objects, art, all sorts of things. The whole idea is twinning. And usually it's, obviously it's not complete twin. Digital twin is a version of something that exists as a physical object. Like human twins, digital twins may look similar to their physical counterparts, but the two may behave very differently. One of the big benefits of the digital version is that it can often do things or go places the physical version can't. So again, it comes back to virtual reality. You can travel in virtual reality to places you could never even dream of traveling in the real world, either because they don't exist anymore, or because the operation would be far too expensive, you can't afford to, or because, I don't know, it's a land owned by Putin and he doesn't want you to go there. I don't know. But you can do a lot in a virtual environment that you certainly can't do in the real environment. There are still many things, of course, that you need to be in a real environment to eating, for example, exercise. Well, you can do that in virtual reality if you've got the right kit. Um, you know, but the twinning thing is, there's a good example in Britain where some of our towns and cities around the country are actually twinned with other cities elsewhere in the world. So you might find Manchester or something in Britain is twinned with, I don't know, some city in Ontario or something, or in Japan, you know. And it's usually a ruse for swapping tourists. Oh, well, the people who live in, I don't know, the Japanese twin of Manchester say, oh, we're going for a holiday. We'll go to Manchester in the UK. It's our twin. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I do tend to think of a lot of things like this as mirror worlds. But they do make a point here that they consider a digital twin is not necessarily an actual twin. In other words, if you're able to create an avatar and embody it with huge characteristics of yours and make it look like you and program it to do things that you do, it still wouldn't be real, but it'd be getting into that uncanny valley thing. And the implication here is that digital twins don't ever go that far, that they raise the uncanny valley thing. So anyway, they've got some thoughts on that, as have I, and we can talk forever about these things. But you'll find this one at arpost.co, arpost.co. And moving down the list, believe it or not, we're back on VentureBeat yes again. Okay. And this is the Dean Takahashi, his own sort of column thing here. And it's actually the Open Metaverse Alliance, which is formed fairly recently. Every day I keep seeing pictures of the Open Metaverse Alliance logo. And on the side of it, or above it, or below it, in the same picture is Fred Blogs Enterprises has joined the OMA. Or, and this picture, I guess people are given the image and they're allowed to put their own logo on it and then Twitter the fact that they've joined. And it seems to be the real cool thing. They need to join the Open Metaverse Alliance and then tweet about it with a graphic showing their logo on the OMA's logo. It's a sort of corporate. It's like how things go viral with consumers. Well, this is like a corporate equivalent. It seems. Everybody wants to join the Open Metaverse Alliance. And there don't seem to be, I haven't heard of many people being rejected. So presumably all they've got to do is somehow commit to some vague idea of an open metaverse. It worries me a bit because that is something I should agree with. After all, the team aims to address interoperability challenges within the metaverse by creating uniform standards for blockchain gaming, so users will be able to take digital items from one world to another, etc., etc. And all this is good within reason. As long as opening up the standards doesn't mean allowing companies to come in and actually monopolize subsections of it. If they have open standards and they have an inventory system that allows people in one world to put things in their inventory and move them across to other platforms, that's going to be very difficult to engineer because of the difference in the underlying platforms at the moment. But if that were to happen, you want to be worried that somebody is providing a commercial service to the open metaverse based on those kind of open standards and things. You can't avoid it. Even Open Simulator here has commercial activity within it, and they're taking advantage of the open architecture of the world and the fact they can communicate with other grids, etc., to actually run enterprise or education, commercial operation. So there's always going to be that big overlap, but you don't want a situation where there might be danger of so many people getting together and forming subgroups. So you might get a kind of slow monopolization of just little corners of the open standards, and suddenly they're no longer small corners anymore. it's something. It's something to sort of watch. Anyway, Dean is actually writing here about why he thinks, anyway, that all these Web3 companies, as they're often called now, actually created the Open Metaverse Alliance. Although it might be more accurate to say why they all joined the Open Metaverse Alliance, because only a few actually started it, but now everybody under the sun is joining up on it. So you'll find this at venturebeat.com again, venturebeat.com. And I'm aware of time here, so moving ourselves ahead a bit. Voices of VR. Well, it wouldn't be a proper week, would it, if there wasn't at least one? In fact, I think there is only one this week. Number 1117. Deconstructing voxels, which were formerly called crypto voxels, virtual land speculation, and experiential gap of crypto-based metaverse neighborhoods. Oh, Ken Bai is a wonderful interviewer. He knows, he's actually the first to admit that he's he's not a big fan of all this stuff, but it doesn't stop him sitting down for a deep dive thing. I'm reminded of Philip Rosedale's High Fidelity World when it began. It no longer exists as a virtual world, and they had a big thing of saying we don't use pixels, we use voxels, and that's probably the first time I ever really heard the word voxels. The thing is, a pixel is like a square. Obviously, on a screen, it's like a little square with a given color in it. But in a virtual environment, it's also a square. It's like a cube. From a given angle, you might only see one plane, one side of that square. Whereas voxels are much more sort of diamond, triangular sort of shape. But the important thing is they do sort of fit together. Like, the cube thing is like building with Lego. Whereas the voxels are more like building with like baby diamonds that sort of slot together. And they do allow a lot more variety in the shapes they can be. It could be built in aggregate. But no, I got lost on this when we got things like voxels and stuff, and this is all now being applied to selling virtual plots of land. I don't think it has anything to do with the graphic element voxels at all. This is history a roaring business, and I don't really know what people are doing. Sure, you can see something here, and you can go to whoever's ever selling land here, and buy some land for some absurd amount of money, and they'll give you a blockchain certificate or something proving it's yours. But what you can ever do with it, I don't know, because it's rather like the walled garden of Second Life. The only way somebody could visit you, even if they even have avatars at this stage, is to actually come into this platform where your land property is, and maybe you can take it out and put it somewhere else, but then you'd only be taking out the architecture, you wouldn't be taking out the land that you supposedly own. So all these people spending a fortune on land in the metaverse, I mean, the question I have to ask is, where in this so-called metaverse is that land you're buying? Sure, you've got a certificate, you pay for it in cryptocurrency, it costs you so much, and the assets on these are transferable, even though the land may not be if it's on a closed server. I just get more and more confused, and I very rarely hear anybody talking about getting themselves into a mess with this. It's almost as if, no, we're not going to talk about the problems. We just want to sell you virtual land. Somewhere down the line, it's going to be like the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency crash we've been seeing recently itself. It's all going to explode and be proven that a lot of people have spent a lot of money on something that's going to be worthless, I would think. But it's a growing thing. Governments and all sorts of people are trying to get into, cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. The only thing I like about this whole cryptocurrency, well, not cryptocurrencies at all, actually, or virtual land, I don't like that either. What I do more or less think of is the use of blockchain as a viable proof of ownership and exchange in the future. But even so, things have to be tradable in the real world. There has to be a central You're going to end up with something centralized that just manages, like the World Wide Web is, even if it wasn't getting centralized anyway, even since the very beginning, it's relied on 5 sort of mega servers spread out around the world at secret locations to keep the whole thing going, because at some point there has to be a level of central ability at the top of it all, just making sure it doesn't collapse. It's like the glue, you know. What you don't want is corporations owning centralized services or governments owning centralized services and getting one up on each other. Anyway, I'm having a rabbit hole day, aren't I? They can't even spell neighborhood, can they? Never mind. Right, so that one is anyway attached to Voices of VR. I haven't listened to that one yet, I have to admit. There's not enough time in it, whatever. So voicesofvr.com for that one. Chronos are of course heavily involved in open standards and things, and they've released the GLTF version 2 as an international standard. Now, this is a specification, a format, basically, for the efficient transmission and loading of 3D models. So it's going some way to having a specification for 3D models, right, that could be used in an open metaverse. In other words, you wouldn't necessarily be able to bring one of these models into Second Life, but you might be able to bring it into OpenSim or ScienceSpace or whatever. And I do know that at the IMA, Adam Frisby from ScienceSpace, and a friend of ours at OpenSim too, he's one of the founders there, is actually working, not with Chronos especially, but on advancements to the GLTF specification. That's what it's one of the subgroups that meets every week. And they're on the OMI Discord channel as a subgroup, so you can follow them if you need to. And yeah, the more people who join into the working groups, the better. They love getting people out. And yeah, there's some quotations from Neil Trevor, Vice President of Development at Chronos here as well. Chronos was actually set up as a standards sort of body, so it's not like they're putting a brand on open source or anything. That's actually why they exist. So you will find this at chronos.org. So it's a KHRONOS.org. All right, moving on. This is the Metaverse Insider Tech. We sent a few of their little roundup videos some weeks, actually, not this week, but the site is metaverseinsider.tech. So METAVERSINSIDER.TECH. And this chap, Chris Valentine, is their CEO. And he's actually talking about the Internet of the Senses Institute, predicting new trends in, again, it's the M word, metaverse technology. I do like the sound of that, actually, though. The Internet of the Senses Institute. It's got that kind of fascination and formality about it, Institute for the Internet of the Senses. Gosh, golly, what? Anyway, he chats about all that, and they ask questions who are part of the this group, and of course it tends to be other institutions, but quite interesting stuff. And so you'll find that at metaverseinsider.tech, and the .tech is .tech, 4 letters to that. All right. I've been posted to quite a few recently. Most of the NFT and cryptocurrency and stuff does not interest me remotely, but I have been getting a few links to a couple of news sites, one of which here is called NFT News Today, NFTNEWSTODAY.com. And They did have one post here this week, which was sort of interesting because it was a bit more general. And that was say, should the metaverse workers be worried about being monitored by their bosses? So, on one hand, you know, we've got consumers who hate the fact of going into Meta's world at all because it's owned by, Mega Snoop International, isn't it? You know, but that's on the consumer level. But of course, increasingly, ever since working at home became popular in the due to COVID and things, you know, a lot of people feel like they're being unnecessarily monitored in their own homes by their bosses, who want to do the digital equivalent of standing over their employees watching what they're doing, you know. Now, presumably one boss has only got so many eyes and can only monitor things in general. But as the 3D worlds take off and, you know, the so-called metaverse, should should workers be worried about bosses monitoring them? Should bosses be allowed to monitor them, etc.? A lot of things to look at here, or as part of working in the metaverse here, really. You get the perks, but there's some that aren't perks. Anyway, a load of research being done here. And where are we? Okay, a staggering 63% of workers are actually worried about their employers having access to their data. Especially as employee monitoring software has become quite popular in recent years. Well, it's not surprising. If you can buy it, the employers are going to buy it, aren't they? And even to the extent of recording webcam footage of them while they're supposedly working. And so, proof pudding that you certainly need to have at least your pajamas on when you're working from home. Right. Unless your boss is a good, well, never mind. Won't go there. So let's just put these two away. Hi, down to the last two. Right. Including the latest one I'm waiting at the bottom. Okay. Here's a good one. Technologyreview.com on August the 6th, which was yesterday. They have found out, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, in their technology review, VR is as good as psychedelics at helping people reach transcendence. Oh, it's not letting me do my read review. Well, never mind. He did earlier. Okay. Oh, maybe accept the cookies first or something. Anyway, it's pretty obvious what it said. Use key metrics of VR experience elicited a response indistinguishable from subjects who took medium doses of LSD or magic mushrooms. I can completely understand this. You've got to remember one of the original sort of evangelical, people for VR was Dr. Timothy Leary. He of the turn on, tune in, drop out. He used to advocate acid before it was illegal. He said, I remember he said, when he discovered what virtual reality was going to be able to do, he said, well, who needs acid anymore? Not quite like that, but I mean, the idea that for the most part, I mean, you look at OpenSim and Second Life and things like that, and they are sort of curated worlds, but you can still do your own thing and imagine things your way. The increasing tendency to walled gardens and curated walls, they're more like novels or movies. A psychedelic wow show on screen or in your helmet is not the same as an hallucinogenic drug trip, a psychedelic trip, where organic elements take on life of their own, because of the chemical stimulations in your brain. Now you can make a virtual equivalence of that, but the equivalence will always have an element of storytelling in it because somebody will have created it for you to take that experience. So it's like a narrated trip rather than a could be bad, could be good trip kind of thing. So, but there are similarities there for sure. And the effects that some things in virtual reality, even on just flat screens, can have on the brain are actually very similar to some of the effects that certain drugs kind of have. And I've always been fascinated by that too. This was quite interesting because this is referring to Gulwaki, I think he is artist and a computational molecular scientist. And when you think of art, that I guess is an example. Although it seems to be more like an editorial, illustration than anything else. Artists who've experienced hallucinogenics in the pharmaceutical type are often inspired, often not regularly, but just a life-changing experience. So it inspires their art, often forever after, without any chemical help. And it could also be said that for an artist who experiences a fairly evolving virtual environment, in other words, something that's not too totally constructed for them, a bit like a game where things can go one way or another depending on how you react, then that trip, for want of a better word, can also influence what they do as an artist. Maybe for a long time, maybe they just discover something that makes them click and thinks, that's what I'm going to do for now. And I'm going to create art that embraces that symbolism or shows that awareness or whatever. It's something very vague. But yeah, I'll be here all night. I'm going to rabbit holing again. I think we're going to have to rename this show as Down the Rabbit Hole Weekly or something. Typical. Okay, you will find this one at, where are we? Technologyreview.com. TECHNOLOGYREVIEW.com.
These results on search.
Serves me right, doesn't it? Okay, Google, go away. I'm happy. Go away.
To make the screen dark, say turn off the screen.
Yeah, turn off the screen.
To turn the display off completely, unplug it from the power source. To tell me to turn off other devices that have been added to the Google Home app, include the name of the device in your request.
Hey Google, could you just do something simple like shut up?
To stop me from talking, just say stop.
Stop.
To turn off music or other
Google.
media,
Hey Google.
Stop the
Hey Google, stop. Oh, so temperamental. I think I'll stick with the art. Don't need people to talk me through the world. Okay, that was technologyreview.com, and that is the last of the main things. Now, one thing, I mentioned this already by accident earlier. This is info, info.cern.ch. Although to find this actual link, I think you have to go, just follow my tweet. This is a replica. Well, it's not a replica. It's actually the first ever web page put online by Sir Tim Berners-Lee 31 years ago, today, the 7th of August. And there's obviously other pages he's linked to telling you all about it. Don't know whether they all, they do still work. I suppose they can't not work. It's really just totally historical. There were no others. These, other servers and things, they were all prototypes still being built. There was actually no World Wide Web to actually surf or explore in those days. It was just this was just the actual very first page that was ever there, 31 years ago. And it was probably a good 6 years before people really started realizing the potential of the web. Now, I'm not talking academia and, certainly, I was certainly using the web by, 94, 95. In fact, I had it should be about 3 years later, I had a version of Mosaic that actually ran on a CD and a Philips CDI player, would you believe, before home computers. Well, not before computers, but before many had them at home. So very significant date. But of course, looking back, the 7th of August, 31 years ago, it changed the world. But you still have to ask, whether it has been for better or worse. There have been a few articles recently that are actually beginning to think, what the hell have we done? And this is just with the web, let alone what it might do with the metaverse come the day. And, I think we have to look back and decide, does everything we touch as an ideal go wrong? And by sheer coincidence, I'm going to ask James this, and just on the off chance he might know. There's nobody else I can ask actually here at the moment. But the 7th of August, there is another event in history, which is just, well, you have to, which was the more important. Do you know what the other event would have been? Not the same year, I hasten to add.
No, I'm not tracking.
It's I guess people just don't want to talk about it. The 7th of August was when the United States bombed Hiroshima.
Oh.
With the first atomic bomb. So the 7th of August was the birth of the World Wide Web and the use of the first atomic nuclear weapon. And some will say, well, if it hadn't been for Hiroshima, we wouldn't have enjoyed 77 years of deterrence. We better make it 75 because we're not counting Russia now. So peace has reigned as a result of that. So maybe it's good. On the other hand, the terrifying thought that those weapons exist and can't be uninvented is a nightmare. The World Wide Web. But that was only 31 years ago. But it was a utopian idea at the beginning. And now it couldn't be anything more the opposite. And we're already starting to talk about the M-verse, or whatever word it's going to be, whatever it will be in the end. There'll be the enthusiasm, and then, depending on the speed of progress, there'll be, the dedicated people going to the future. How quickly it all comes about, we don't know. There's a lot of real-world factors and economics, entwined in it. But will we look back? Well, those of the people that are still around in 30 years' time, will they look back and actually view what happened with the birth of let's call it a metaverse for the hell of it? Will it turn into something so nightmarish that they'll be saying, oh, so much for the utopian vision? Like we're saying now about the web, will people in another 30 years be saying about the metaverse? So it makes you wonder. And obviously 77 years since the first nuclear was dropped, but history is a wonderful thing. Is it good that these things have come about? I mean, you've got to say the World Wide Web has changed the world. It's just after a period of time you wonder whether it has changed it for better or worse. And some people will say nuclear weapons changed it for the better, whereas the World Wide Web has changed it for the worse. Other people will say the exact opposite, of course. So interesting, but so much for the 7th of August. I wonder if I can find it. Maybe the 7th of August next year I'll have found another anniversary to celebrate. I don't know, but anyway, I thought that would interest you, both the World Wide Web and the other thing. So, right, I'm now finished. I'm now moving on to my Mastodon feed. This you'll find at mastodon.social/ and then the @ symbol Metaworld. This is where I basically keep all long-form videos. These posts automatically go to my Twitter feed too, so you don't need to come to me at Mastodon or stuff to look me up here if you don't want to. You can simply click through to these from my Twitter feed as well. But basically shows and stuff that have been up in the week. This is a show called Future Humans, I believe, and it's an interview with somebody called Andrew Zimmerman, who's CEO at a company called Journey, and very interesting. I actually love the format of these too, because the host is the avatar and the guest is always real, and it's that cross thing that I actually quite like as well. Just to give you a vague.
Special guest Andy Zimmerman to the Hollership today for the Future Humans podcast show. Andy is the Chief Executive Officer of Journey. Journey is an innovation and design consultancy that focuses on futuristic consumer touchpoints and was conceived to help brands envision, plan, and effectively build the next generation of customer experiences enabled by emerging technologies.
Well, I'm not going to play it all. There's enough of it there. You're going to want to click through. You can play it actually on my Mastodon feed here, or you can click through to YouTube in this case. It's 35 minutes long, so it's not exactly an epic, but it's too long to actually play here. Also, of course, Charlie Finks and Ted Shilowitz's video version of the Week in XR. They've got their guest is somebody called Catherine Henry, who's the senior vice president of Media Monks, whoever they be. This one I picked up late, so again I haven't actually really watched that. You probably know, if you follow me here or whatever, you probably know what the show's like. Charlie and Ted sort of being amicable with each other and chatting to somebody they're usually both familiar with. This was actually, this is the Art Angle. It's actually an Art World podcast. It's not actually video, but it actually ended up, I couldn't find anywhere to quickly send it. So it ended up here anyway, and it links to a Spotify page, so you can open it up there. Or if you have Spotify, it will open it up in your Spotify app. What is the metaverse? ? And why should the art world care? This was actually fascinating. It's not hugely long, if I remember, but it's sort of as people start talking about the metaverse, whatever it's going to be, it's the implications for it are filtering into all sorts of walks of life. I mean, probably fashion. The fashion world is probably the first big element that latched onto it. Then, of course, the music business. And now, of course, it's the art world. And that doesn't just mean NFTs, by the way. So, an interesting conversation there, even though it's just audio. The WebXR Education Summit has been going on for about 2 weeks. I think it's still on for at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks at the end of July. I actually, this is the CEO of a company called Victory XR, and he's actually talking about a project called the Metaversity Project, and I thought this was of general interest enough for me to put it on the feed here. If you actually follow this through to YouTube, where it actually came from, you'll probably find about 100 videos all posted in the last fortnight of sessions that have been done at this. And I have to say, unless you're an educator, there's probably very little to interest you in most of the recordings. But this in particular one, I guess it feels like a sort of keynote recording, although it's Victory XR is a program that includes 10 universities and building digitally together, and interesting to listen to anyway. I will click on it just to give you an idea. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. It's only 15 minutes or 16 in fact. Then of course we come to I was a bit late getting this again, but this is I will ask James if you listened.
Oh, I did.
You sound very weary when you said that, like you endured it.
No, I enjoy the program. I love their enthusiasm. They are very hopeful about the future. They love covering this technology, and their enthusiasm is actually kind of infectious. So I find it really entertaining. They do talk a lot about Meta, but it's they also go into some of the very exciting things. The eye tracking, the face tracking. I mean, stuff that is it's I hope it doesn't bomb Japan, but it's I enjoy it. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, VR Download. This is the name of the weekly show, but they do another Gamesways one. It's Upload VR, the company. In fact, if you go to YouTube and check out VR Download, you'll find our company's other stuff there too. But there's one I just watched yesterday. It was only about 5 minutes long. I didn't really know where to put it. It was more gamey than anything else. But they were looking at the hand tracking that has been implemented in the helmet version of Myst.
Mm-hmm.
and there was they recorded some live video of that, happening. It wasn't them doing the talking. They obviously got somebody else, a female voice, to talk them through it. But it's just showing how you use your finger to point and tap on thin air and things to do things that weren't actually possible in the original VR version, let alone in the on-screen version, the original one.
Right.
But yes, excellent show, the VR download, and that was on Tuesday or maybe Monday that came out. Although I only got it up here 3 days ago. Also earlier in the week, Ryan Gill here. He's the boss of something called Open Meta, which sounds great, but actually they have more to do with the crypto things. This was recorded at the Monaco Crypto Summit, but the guy's very eloquent and knows what he's talking about, and it's not as though it's he's not talking. It's not a session where he's talking about crypto all the while. It's just a rather. It's probably a keynote at the Crypto Summit, but going well beyond crypto. And from very early in the week, building a better metaverse, and I love this one. Somebody called Tizzy.
My name is Elizabeth Bell, but here in the Metaverse, my friends know me as Tizzy. For over 20 years, the Metaverse has been an important part of my life and has affected so many things, including my friendships, my career, my relationships, and even the person who I am today. I've seen firsthand how virtual spaces can positively affect people's real lives, my own included. As a longtime veteran of virtual worlds, I've seen so many projects rise and fall over the years. Some of these projects did things right, others left behind lessons that other worlds can learn from in the future. Today, we're going to talk about what the metaverse is and how we can learn from the lessons of the past to build a better platform for the future.
Okay, it's only 10 minutes. In fact, I might show it direct another week. But the woman who does that, her name is Tizzers. And I think she is the same Tizzers who used to be very well known as, I think, more Tizzy or something in Second Life. That avatar, in fact, I suspect that avatar was in Second Life there. It didn't look like it, but there again, people have some very weird avatars and strange locations in Second Life that almost mimic some of the more simplistic worlds. So anyway, it's also a great little chat. It's just a user who's having a say, as it were. And July 31st, this must have been up already last week. This was a documentary about VR chat being in very serious trouble. I seem to remember us talking about that last week.
Yep.
So that's it for the Twitter feeds and whatever. We looked at Vroom, we looked at that starter reality channels who's there, Morgan and Morgan we looked at. Inside the metaverse. Oh, both of those. Building a metaverse for the future. Did we do this one? Oh, no, not again. Damn thing.
Hey guys.
Oh!
My name is Elizabeth Bell, but here in the Metaverse, my friends know me as Tizzy.
Okay. Oh, by sheer coincidence. Right, so we're back where we started. Okay, that's it for this show, believe it or not. James, have you any thoughts after that? I haven't even got the usual YouTube clock in front of me, so I don't know how long we've been.
Right. No, just, I had an opportunity to watch the documentary We Met in VR, which is on HBO, and unfortunately I don't think it's on Europe HBO yet. But I was just going to pass along. It was interesting. I noticed in the credits that Kent Bai got a credit in that film.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was good. It was a very interesting film, and I know we ridiculed it a little bit since we have been filming in VR for a long time, or at least in 2DR. But it was a very very nice film, very interesting and very very emotional. It did talk to, as what you're sharing right now, that avatar talking about very real relationships, very real emotions. And very uplifting.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned last week that Drastic Dupre in Second Life did an awful lot of stuff along with Tom, what's his name, the anthropologist. Um, but yeah, I mean, that was confined to VR chat, and I haven't seen all of it yet. So you're right. I was looking it up. I should. Um, I do often get USA feeds rather than UK feeds, but I don't think it. I mean, it's probably too documentary or whatever to be in any of my sources. My sources tend to be science fiction.
Pirate sources, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, like the rest of the planet, and it arrived on time in Britain. I think everybody down in Britain has binged over the last 2 days on Sandman. Don't know whether you've seen the Sandman.
I know the comic, but I haven't seen. There's a new production of it.
Oh yeah, it's an eight parts on forget which channel it's on.
Is it Apple? Because I don't have Apple.
I think it's Netflix.
Oh, okay.
It's actually Warner Television supplied to Netflix, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, the web and in Britain, I mean, mostly British cast. I actually know two of the cast members, and it took me by complete surprise. And so real megastars. I mean, so people like Stephen Fry doing a cameo with just 2 scenes.
Oh, nice.
So many famous people cast in it. I mean, anything Neil Gaiman does, he can get anybody he wants. But yeah, a lot of praise even from the comic fraternity that were dreading the fact that what might have been done to it by actually saying, because Gaiman's have complete control throughout, and they're saying, enough years separate the comic, which was that was about 30 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
It was when he was young, and he was just coming up in comics when I sort of abandoned comics. I don't even know whether I probably did meet him, but he would have been really young anyway. And that was that was his first major sort of thing. Yeah, it starts off following the comics, and then it moves into something else. But it's just great. It is absolutely great, and there's been a renewed interest in the original comics and the big graphic novels that also put things in different order. And they've been fiddling around with it under his auspices for ages. But I can, I binged 5 episodes one night and then 5 episodes again last night because it's out on Friday night, basically. Yeah, there's just no way I was going to take an interval except overnight, It's great. I couldn't recommend it highly. It's been it's not science fiction in the sense of our, the Orville's and Star Treks, but it's great. I mean, I consider it better than American Gods and the other one that he was sort of behind. I think he was saying that although a lot of DC Comics characters appear in strange cameos, the whole thing is his. He owns it. He doesn't own the rights in it. Warner do, but they didn't interfere with his creative input, so to speak. And surprisingly, over 30 years, nobody at DC managed to mess it up by doing anything with it. Because they're just going to compete with what he did himself on it, forever changing it. Anyway, yeah, I'd recommend that to anybody. And of course, we are still on there. So, folks, I'm not being paid by Neil Gaiman or DC or Warner Brothers, but I do recommend a Sandman on your televisual unit. Yes, that thing that existed on a flat screen before we went 3D. Have we gone 3D yet? I don't know. Right, yeah. So, yeah, you really must watch that. And I actually have been doing searches to try and find myself a copy of the HBO thing, documentary. But it will pop out somewhere eventually.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's not in my daily deliveries, as it were. But yeah, that's good. Yeah. Put it on your list. I think it's Netflix or.
Yeah, it's
Warner.
Netflix. I see it's on Netflix.
Yeah, apparently it's everywhere. So, I mean, I don't think you're limited to just Netflix or something. or either that or it's very unusual for me to see something like that and find people in Britain talking about it endlessly.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it must have been released exactly at the same time over here to Netflix UK as it was in the States. So, yeah. Or maybe elsewhere too, because next thing we know, the BBC will be showing Netflix. Yeah, I don't know, but well worth watching, and all the you know, a lot of other comics artists and things got credited in it, and also been raving about it, and yeah, and I found in doing a bit of research on it, I found a few surprises of, you know, people I didn't know that had been involved with him on it that were, and as I say, two surprise actors. Very interesting. Yeah, wonderful. Right, let us depart and leave our listeners and viewers in peace.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wait, can you, folks? We've been with you for what is it, 90 minutes?
2 hours and 15 minutes.
Cheers, I've got an extra hour that I didn't notice. Right, okay. Back to that. Okay. Must be careful in future. Thank God we weren't making way for another show.
All right.
I didn't think it was going to be long today. Right, okay, well, we've done it now. I think we've probably put you all to sleep. Just remember when you wake up to turn the TV off again, or whatever you do when you're watching this. Right, so it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from you know.
Sure.
Yes, Jeez, right, because ARXR blah blah, we too. Oh no, that's not right. Okay, right. We are. Oh, yeah, never mind.
All right.
Never mind.
All right. I missed
We're
rehearsal.
too,
All right.
we're too tired for that too, all of us. Right. Okay. We'll be back next week with the usual roundup. We might be a bit gentler on you. I mean, we can't do 2.5 hours every week. Although we probably could if we tried, but that's not the point. Yeah. Hope you've enjoyed everything we've got for you, showed you, etc., etc. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe, of course. Remember that dangers lurk around every corner. They're in the skies, they're in the air. Monkeypoxes, COVIDs, polios, nuclear weapons, you name it, they're lurking. So stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you next week.